Hey guys, I'm going to do a few really short tutorials on some Photoshop techniques that you guys are looking to use. The first one I'm going to do is how to do a meadow or long grass texture. This is covered in the Skillshare course that I put out, so hopefully you guys have watched that, but as a special favor to you guys, I'm going to just do a little tutorial that focuses on this. So I have two textures here. One is this long grassy meadow texture, and then I have this spring meadow texture. And I want to, usually when I do grasses or meadows, I usually mix like 3 to 5 different types of meadows, but for sake of simplicity, I'm just going to use 2. So the first thing I'll do is I'll just use the marquee tool, and I have selected that by pressing M for marquee. And then I'm going to just grab this entire part of the image, and I'm just going to drag it. Oops. Going to make sure that my selection tool is on, and then I'm going to drag it into my new file. And then I'll do the same with this one. Sorry. Marquee. Just going to grab it like this and then drag it into my new file. So I never try to place individual plants when I'm creating planting. It's a waste of time. It'll take you forever. And there are so many photographs of fields, meadows, grassy lawns, and other stuff that you can grab from that are already in perspective and already have beautiful light on them. I just feel like trying to recreate planting with individual plants is like the last thing I want to do with my time. So again, we're working in black and white here, so I'm just going to pop these into my layer down here. And I'll call this long grasses. I'll call this spring meadow. Okay, so I'm just going to place this on my site, and actually before I resize it, I'm going to use one of these devices. So I'm just going to grab this and put it on top just so I have something to aim for. You can drag down guides by dragging down from your rulers up there. So I'm just going to drag one to the middle horizon so that I know what I'm aiming for. Okay. So I'm going to resize this so that it goes to my horizon. And maybe I'll just do it a little tiny bit above because I like to modulate the edge. So now I already have pretty much long grasses look and don't really need to do too much, but I'm going to blend this one over top. So this one is much larger, so I'm going to size it down. And I probably want to use the part that doesn't have the path kind of set out of it, but it doesn't really matter. I could use that if I was using leading lines and I wanted to use that as an outline of my path, I could do that. Or if I just want to blend it straight on, I'll probably just use one of my my content aware adjustment tools to fill in that line. So I've just gone to my spot healing brush tool, and I'm going to fill this in. It'll probably look a little bit weird, but it doesn't matter because I'm just going to blend it out. So I didn't want to see those lines, so those are gone. Okay. To zoom in and let this fill the page, you can press Control-0, and Control-1 will take you to the actual size. So now what I'm going to do is go onto my long grasses and put up a layer mask, and then making sure black is in the background like I just did there, I'm going to go into my eraser tool by pressing E for eraser, and then I'm going to first navigate to the brushes that I gave you. Where are they? I don't think I have them loaded. But I know that these brushes are in your set, so I'm just going to go find this grass brush here. And then I'll use the left parentheses to resize it a little bit, and I'll just turn my opacity all the way up to 100, and then I'll just like kind of erase the edge so that it looks like a grassy edge. Okay, so now that edge is done. And I'm going to take the spring meadow and I'm just going to try a few blend modes and see if anything kind of looks good. I'll probably do a screen first, and then I'm going to duplicate it just by pressing Control J, and I'm going to put it on overlay. Yeah, okay. Then I'll just put those into a group together and call it Spring Meadow. And now I can put a layer mask on that group, and use my eraser. So I just pressed E for eraser. It brought up this brush palette again. I right click to access my brushes, and I'm going to select another one, maybe this one right here, and I can just turn it around by turning this this like locator thing around. So now I'm going to use this brush tool to sort of like blend it in to the background, so that we get a few different senses of what's going on. And then if I want to brush something back in, I can press B for brush and right click, and I could use that same brush and I could brush my grasses back in if I want. I'm just going to check out what it looks like in color. Okay, yeah, so I think that probably works for my meadow. And then usually you'll want to enhance the sort of color and contrast of this. So how you could possibly do that to add a little bit more dynamic range is to grab both of these layers and press Control J. That will duplicate them, and then merge them by pressing Control E. That's going to merge them into one layer. And then you could do like a multiply and maybe 65 and put on another layer mask, and then use your brushes again to sort of pick out the highlights of the grassy areas that you want to really shine through, like that. So I might go and use this brush instead. So you can see I'm kind of like bringing back in some highlights to the area just by brushing these in. Yeah. Because what we want to see is the shade and shadow of the meadow. And you can see why I'm telling you not to use the color initially, because it gets really distracting trying to focus on how to navigate all those green colors. But if we go back to the very beginning, if this is, yes, this was the original color, this was the original layer. And now we have kind of added and blended over top of it. And I think that gives a better, more atmospheric sense of meadow than just using one grass texture. So definitely give blending a try as you're working. And if you wanted to, you can decide like how intense you want these shades and shadows. I might, oops, if I want to brush things back in, I'm just using B for brush, and then going in and kind of adding a few more, just to add some more shadow. Okay. You can blend things forever. So you could duplicate this layer again and put it on something else like overlay or screen, or you know, if you wanted to screen it and then take off this layer mask and put a different one on, you could Control click this one and delete it here. Then you'd have a real intense contrast, and I would turn that down, maybe like 25 or something. So now we get a more of a sense of depth and shadow and light kind of passing over this field than we do if it's just sitting there like our original image. So use blend modes and your brush and erase tool on top of layer masks to your advantage. All I needed was 2 textures, 2 brushes, and layer masks, essentially.